Welcome to this explainer. When property managers sit down to talk strategy, they usually jump straight to things like pricing, photography, or deep cleaning, right? But there's this absolutely crucial part of the guest journey that kind of gets completely ignored. And it's crazy because it single-handedly sets the tone for the entire stay, the arrival. So today, we're diving into this forgotten first impression. We're going to see why the traditional way we welcome guests might actually be doing way more harm than good.
Think about it. What really makes a great first impression in hospitality? For decades, the whole industry has basically run on this deeply ingrained assumption. You need a smiling host at the front door, a firm handshake, and maybe a grand tour showing off the living room. But is that what modern travelers actually want? We need to challenge that assumption today. We really have to ask ourselves if our whole idea of good service is actually just, an outdated routine, one that's honestly just causing unnecessary stress for the very people we're trying to welcome.
I mean, we all know the old way. The guest messages their estimated arrival time and the host waits at the property like clockwork. It's a super rigid appointment. But let's be real, travel is never rigid. Flights get delayed, ferries run late. Suddenly, everyone's frantically texting each other trying to negotiate a new time to meet up. It is incredibly stressful. Now, compare that to the new way. Secure links, totally spontaneous travel, and the ability to arrive literally anytime. Modern travel has become so fluid, but for the longest time, the check-in process just dragged behind. People want flexibility today, not strict appointments.
Because, look, there's just a reality we have to face here. Standing outside with all your luggage, waiting on someone who's stuck in traffic, that is definitely not a great first 10 minutes of a holiday. Just picture it. You've been traveling for 10 hours, you are completely exhausted, lugging heavy bags, and you're just standing there on the pavement in Kavala because your host hit airport traffic. Or, hey, maybe you are the one stuck in traffic, just sweating and anxiously watching the clock. That universal friction? It spikes your cortisol right when you're supposed to be shifting into vacation mode. It's basically the absolute opposite of hospitality.
Recognizing this massive pain point, the team over at Planbnb didn't just shrug and accept it as part of the business. Instead, they took action. They went and built their very own custom, in-house online check-in system. And the key thing here is they didn't just bolt on some clunky, generic third-party plugin to their listings. No, they built this thing from the ground up. It was specifically tailored to solve the exact headaches they were seeing day in and day out in their own operations. It's honestly a brilliant example of taking a localized problem and engineering a totally frictionless solution for it.
Let's actually walk through how this works for the user, because it is built for pure simplicity. Step 1. The guest gets a secure link before they even pack their bags. Next, they knock out all those boring admin tasks. Guest registration, uploading IDs if it's legally required. Then they review the house rules. And here's the kicker. They actually get to choose their arrival style. Step 4, they just arrive whenever they're ready. By the time they actually show up at the door, all that heavy administrative lifting is totally done. No signing clipboards, no awkward lingering to explain the Wi-Fi password. The only thing left to do at the door is offer a simple, genuine welcome.
And this brings us to a massive paradox shift in hospitality. When Planbnb rolled this out, giving guests the choice between a traditional personal welcome or self-check-in, you'd probably assume what most of us would. We'd think the majority of people still want to be greeted by a real live human being. But the data showed the exact opposite. The vast majority of guests actively chose self-check-in. Sure, the personal welcome is still nice for first-timers or big families, but it is very much the minority preference now. Guests are literally raising their hands and saying, please, just let me do this myself.
Why exactly is this happening? Well, if we unpack the psychology behind it, it really comes down to the messy reality of modern travel. Flights get delayed, totally out of your control. Or maybe the kids suddenly need an extra rest stop. Or, someone rents the car and just decides, hey, let's explore the coastline for a few hours before we head to the house. Maybe they want to grab a nice, long, leisurely lunch in Neaparamos. Self-check-in allows for all of that spontaneity. But honestly, the biggest thing, it completely eliminates the guilt of being late. I mean, nobody wants to be frantically texting a stranger apologizing for running behind schedule on their own vacation. Self-check-in takes that psychological pressure entirely off the table.
Because of all this, we really have to redefine what it means to be hospitable. Modern hospitality is about removing friction from the stressful parts of a stay so that human attention can actually be focused where guests genuinely need it. Look, some people hear the phrase self-check-in and instantly think all the warmth and hospitality is just gone. But that is completely the wrong way to look at it.
The tech isn't replacing the host, it's just handling the boring logistics. The Planbnb team, they're still just a quick WhatsApp message away the whole time, and guests who actually want that in-person welcome can still get one. It's all about giving the guest the power to choose. And really, giving them that choice is the ultimate form of modern hospitality.
And the real-world payoff for all this? It's super simple. Better arrivals directly equal better reviews. After managing properties for over a decade, the Planbnb team noticed this undeniable pattern. Guests heavily index on how a stay starts. It acts as this massive psychological anchor. When those first 10 minutes are pressure-free, totally flexible and smooth, it creates this huge halo effect that quietly shapes literally everything that comes after it. Think about it. Even if some minor issue pops up later on, a guest who arrived relaxed and happy is way more forgiving than someone who started their trip stressed out, stranded on a curb with their luggage. That very first impression absolutely dictates the final review.
Now, this system wasn't just built to keep guests happy, it totally transforms the back-end operations for property owners, too. We're talking a massive drop in those frantic, last-minute coordination texts. It completely wipes out those nightmare bottlenecks during peak summer season. You know, those Saturdays when 5 different check-ins magically all happen at exactly 3 p.m. Plus, it guarantees a totally consistent arrival experience every single time, no matter which staff member happens to be on shift. The system just silently and effortlessly absorbs all that peak season chaos in the background. So the property owner, they never even have to sweat it.
The absolute core takeaway here is that this approach was built from reality, not some hospitality manual. This check-in philosophy wasn't dreamed up by a tech startup in Silicon Valley, and it sure wasn't copied from a textbook. It was born from years and years of hosting real people in real properties across places like Kavala, Neeraklica, and Paleotsifliki. It came from actually watching what caused delays, reading real guest feedback, and having the guts to totally rebuild the parts of the travel process that were just fundamentally broken. It's a hyper-local, reality-tested fix to a problem literally every traveler faces.
So, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought to chew on today. Is your own definition of good customer service actually creating hidden friction for your guests? Whether you're managing short-term rentals, running a completely different business, or really just working with people in general, it is so easy to fall into that trap of doing things the way they've always been done. But as we've explored today, sometimes the absolute most hospitable thing you can possibly do is just step out of the way, drop the rigid appointments, and give people the flexibility to arrive on their own terms. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this challenges you to rethink how you manage experiences in your own world.